But get ready for the bingo. I don't know. I have like a softer spot for people with like disabilities now because my wife works with them, like adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so like now part of me is like, like I used to be the guy that would troll Daniel Larson. I'm not trying to be a guy. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but that's like who I would have been back in the day. And now it's like I understand how these people struggle, and like intensely. I've seen it like firsthand. Like I've gone to the group homes with my wife before, and we talk about these things. We talk about the different protocols, the different struggles that some of these individuals go through. Like it's crazy. It's so sad. Like some of the things that some of like these individuals like go through. If I could really communicate it to you, you would be like, wow. Like my wife will come home having a rough day because my wife really likes the people she works with, like that she supports. Like she's a good person, and like she takes the value in her job, and like she'll come home and she's like, this thing happened to this person today, and it's just so sad. And she'll explain. I'm like, fuck, man, like that's horrible. And I don't want to be too specific, but like there's times where you have somebody like maybe they hear somebody that's a nonverbal person with autism, and they're just hanging out, they're just chilling, chilling, but they have like their headphones on, they're listening to their iPad, they're just hanging out, and they're in a group home, so there's multiple people that are frustrated, they're struggling, and somebody in the next room is having a behavioral attack where they're screaming. They're having their own struggle. They're frustrated about something. They struggle to communicate, and that screaming just like upsets the other person so much that's just minding their own business, and they have such a struggle communicating that they take their headphones off and they just start violently smacking themselves in the ears, and they just like boom boom, and they're just hurting themselves, and it's like because they don't know how to get it to stop, they don't know how to disconnect, they don't know what to do. It's so fucking sad, bro. It's like fundamentally speaking, a lot of these individuals that are higher support needed, like it's just the whole life is just fucked. Like think about this: in order for you to like be put in a group home for a lot of these people, is one of two things: either one, their parents can't support them because it's very difficult dealing with a behavioral child or as a child with a disability plus a behavioral issue, oftentimes, or they're in there because they don't love them and they're a burden, they want to get them out of the house. And so now you're in a situation, and of course you have a different struggle with the world, and so you need supervision. But because of that supervision, like now you don't really have full agency or freedom over yourself, and if you did, you would get yourself hurt. You'd be like Daniel Larson running around the street like fucking just attacking people and being a fucking creep. So they lose autonomy, even though it makes sense for them to lose that agency, but it still sucks. And then these individuals, they develop close relationships with their support staff, the DSPs, if they even like them. Some DSPs are assholes and don't like their people, but there are ones that do. And now you're in the house, and that's like your family. You develop a familial love, a familial, you know what I'm saying, a family type love with the support staff. And if you're having a bad day and you need a hug from a support staff, you're not allowed to. You can't. The support staff has to say no, because they don't want the relationship to get inappropriate, mostly because the support staff might leave, and some of these people don't understand how to cope with like somebody that they perceive as family leaving, so they try not to get too close, so they're not allowed to get close. But just imagine not being able to get a hug from like a family member from your perspective. How fucking sad. Or they develop like a family bond with the other people that are supported in the house, and let's say somebody in the house has to go to the hospital because something bad happened. Guess what? It's a HIPAA violation if you're told why they went to the hospital. So now imagine somebody you think is like think of as your brother is in the hospital and you just don't know why. It's like sucks. Imagine, okay, a lot of these individuals are deemed non-consenting because they don't understand consent. They'll ask them questions that fall in line with like the idea of like, if Dave buys you a hamburger, do you have to fuck Dave? And then they're like, yeah. But if you say that, you can't consent because that's obviously not how the world works. So that they don't get hurt, they're deemed non-consenting. That just means you're not allowed to have sex. I know that sounds so trivial, but that's like people with disabilities are the same as us. They get fucking horny, bro. Okay? And then they can't have sex. It's fucked. And then because like the infrastructure is so lacking because there's like so many different issues, and it's hard to like get DSPs that stay on, and it's hard to get the infrastructure. Like they can't even get, some of them don't even get reevaluated when they may be able to consent because there's just so many other things going on, right? And then think about this. These people fall in love sometimes. Hot take, they're people. And a lot of times, or so often, sometimes, it's with people in other houses, in other group home communities, which means you only get to see them maybe once a week. Maybe you get like a once a week date night and you want to hang out with your special someone. So imagine that. You just only get to see them once a week or once a month, once every other week. The person you love, like you can't even hang out with them every day. You know what I mean? Like that's sad. And then if you get married, you lose all of your financial supports that keep you alive. So you can't even get married. You're denied like such fundamental basic freedoms. It sucks, man. Like that's the struggle that these people are going through. And I know I went on a little bit of a tangent, but that's why it's frustrating. And Oopaville didn't do any of this at all, but that's why it's frustrating when you hear some people say, oh, well, I have autism. I can say the R slur. Because your autism doesn't distress you in a way like so many other people that are higher support needed that are truly offended and destroyed by that word. A word that's been used to suppress people, that's been used to diagnose people and put them in an institutionalized setting where they are systematically raped, tortured, and abused. And that's a real thing. And there are people who are still alive today that came out of those conditions, those horrible, terrible, hurtful conditions, that have horrible traumas. There are people who can't get their routine can't speak. Jesus, why can't I say oh my God, they're vagina exams. Gynecological? What's wrong with me? I can't speak words today. Gynecological exams, because they have suppressed deep-seated sexual abuse that they can't even express, which means that person got away with it. You know, like fuck. And so like that's where the advocacy comes from. And every time I talk about this, I'm like, go to a group home, go talk to these people, experience them. You're probably not going to go look up on YouTube right now. Jubilee Down syndrome. Watch the first minute and a half of that. They ask those people about the usage of the R word, and they're like, I don't like this. Sorry, I couldn't say that word. But like, these are the things that frustrate me. We have such a bad representation of people with like different with disabilities on the internet. Because I have ADHD, and I've struggled with it, and I have like tics, and I have my own issues. I have ADHD. It's very difficult for me to organize. Like, it was very difficult for my mother to raise me. I had to be raised like a fucking like very uniform. Like my mother was almost like my boss, because like she had to be very strict, and like you need a lot of guidance, and I was on like Ritalin, and that fucked me up, and it's hurt my ability to make relationships sometimes, and I have something. I probably have OCD, and I know I'm not self-diagnosing, but I know that I have tics and I have different compulsions. And I know that, like, if I don't kiss my wife enough times before she leaves, that I think she's going to die. And I know that but multiple times when I'm standing up, I have to check the doors, and I have to make sure I touch the top and the bottom lock multiple times, usually in sets of 5, or else I think someone's going to, like, hurt me or break in, because somebody broke into my house once. And then I do the back door too, and it's just like back and forth. There's times where I'm up doing it for like a half an hour. The only thing that stops is my wife coming out of bed and saying, "Hey, like, we're okay." And she'll check the doors. She'll say, "I checked them. We're okay." It's fucked. Like, that sucks. Like, I have struggles of my own, but like that doesn't compare at all to being in a group home setting and like not being able to do all these things that I just communicated to you. So it's like, fuck. It's like, goddamn. It's fucked, bro. Because I know a lot of times when I'll talk about it, like, I see people get upset when I talk about Daniel Larson. Like, you're excusing too much behavior. It's like, I'm not. I'm really just trying to have the right conversation. Because I care more about these topics than you in a deeper way. And, like, I'm trying to bring that understanding to other people. Because I've been the guy at a certain point who didn't care or didn't value people with disabilities. And I think that that's a very normal perspective to have. But as I've talked to my wife and I got to know her,
super chatted $2. I'll be heading out. Good night, Papa, and everyone.
Have a good night, brother. Take care. And as I've educated myself, I've realized how wrong I was. And I think that like the normalized usage on the internet of like the R slur, like that's one of those things where like if you're very brazen about using that word on the internet, you probably don't respect people with disabilities as much as you might say you do. You know? So, yeah, man. Sorry for the tangent, but like I just feel like these are the types of conversations that are like super important. You know? It's just there's a lot going on. So I know people get upset with me about the whole Daniel Larson thing and like, oh, blah, 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 but I just don't give a shit anymore about negative attention. Like some people I think are listening and go like, okay, that makes sense, you know? And that's why like the take to have on Daniel Larson is he's a danger to himself and other people, and he needs to be taken off the streets, and he needs to be put into more robust supports, and he needs to not be able to go on his phone, and he needs to not be left to his own devices in public. Because if Daniel Larson is a pedophile, and you can't say for sure that he is. All right, like I'm not, because we don't know how much of the information is real or not. But if he is one, it's not the same as somebody his age without a disability. There's a fundamental lack of understanding of a lot of the situations going on in the world. If you're somebody who can get manipulated by children online into thinking that you're dating a celebrity or that they are actually representatives of Sony Entertainment, if you can get bullied into leaving your house and going and being homeless in California, you are not operating with the same capacity mentally than the average person. So, like, understand that. I understand that. I'm just saying.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.